Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead as he balanced 3 pizza boxes in one hand and his daughter's goodnight text in the other. "Love you, Daddy. Don't work too late." The words made his chest tight. She was only 8, already tucking herself into bed while he delivered order number 47 of the night. But this was the life he'd chosen, or rather, the life that had chosen him after Sarah's accident left him a widower with a mortgage, medical bills, and a little girl who still asked why Mommy couldn't come to her dance recitals anymore. The glass tower of Meridian Technologies loomed above him, all steel and ambition, the kind of building that made men like Marcus invisible. He'd delivered here dozens of times, always through the service entrance, always met by an assistant who barely looked at him. Tonight was no different. The lobby security guard waved him through without a glance, and Marcus made his way to the executive floor, where some late-night meeting was apparently running long enough to require dinner. The receptionist, a woman whose name tag read Jennifer, didn't look up from her phone when he arrived. "Just put them on the conference room table," she said, pointing vaguely down the hallway. Marcus nodded, accustomed to being part of the furniture. As he walked past offices with stunning city views, he thought about his daughter's school field trip form sitting on his kitchen counter. $75 they didn't have. He'd have to pick up extra shifts this weekend. The conference room door was slightly ajar, and Marcus could hear raised voices inside. He hesitated, then knocked softly. No response. The arguing continued, something about quarterly projections and investor confidence. He knocked again, louder this time, but the voices only grew more heated. Not wanting the pizza to get cold, Marcus carefully pushed the door open. 7 people in expensive suits sat around a massive table, papers scattered everywhere, tension thick enough to choke on. At the head sat a silver-haired man Marcus recognized from the building directory. Robert Chen, the CEO. His face was red, his tie loosened, and he was pointing at a presentation on the screen behind him. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly. "Your order." Nobody turned. Nobody acknowledged him. He might as well have been a ghost. "The algorithm is flawed," a woman in a navy blazer was saying. "We've run it through every scenario, and it keeps producing the same error. If we launch next week, we're looking at a catastrophic failure." Marcus set the pizzas on the side table, trying not to intrude on what was clearly a crisis. He should leave. This wasn't his world, wasn't his problem. But something on the screen caught his eye, a string of code, a pattern he recognized. He paused, squinting at the display. "We've had our entire tech team on this for 3 days," Robert Chen said, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "If we can't fix it, we'll miss our launch window. And if we miss that, Sentinel Corp will beat us to market. 20 years of work, $300 million in development costs, all for nothing." Marcus took a step toward the door, but his feet wouldn't move. That code. He'd seen that exact error before, back when he was, but no, that was another lifetime ago. Before Sarah got sick, before the medical bills consumed his savings, before a PhD in computer science became just another piece of paper in a drawer he never opened anymore. "Excuse me," he said again, louder this time. The woman in the navy blazer finally looked at him, her expression somewhere between annoyed and exhausted. "Yes, thank you, you can go." Marcus knew he should. He had 12 more deliveries tonight. His daughter needed new shoes. The rent was due in 5 days, but he looked at that code again, at the way they'd structured the recursive function, and he couldn't help himself. "Your problem is in line 47, he said. "You're calling the parent function before initializing the child parameters. It creates a feedback loop." The room went silent. 7 pairs of eyes turned to stare at him like he'd just spoken in ancient Greek. "I'm sorry, what?" Robert Chen's voice was ice. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck. This was stupid. These were important people with important degrees from important schools, and he was a delivery guy with pizza grease on his shirt. "Nothing. I'm sorry. I'll just—" "No." The CEO stood up. "What did you just say about line 47? Marcus swallowed hard. "The recursive function. You're nesting the calls incorrectly. The child parameters need to be initialized in the local scope before you invoke the parent function. Otherwise, you create an infinite loop that corrupts the data stack. That's why you're getting null returns on every 3rd iteration." The room remained silent. Then a younger man with glasses leaned forward, scrolling frantically through his laptop. He's right. Oh my God, he's right. Look at this. If we move the initialization block above the function call and declare the variables locally instead of globally, his fingers flew across the keyboard. It compiles. It actually compiles without errors. Run it through the test scenarios, Robert Chen ordered, his eyes never leaving Marcus. They waited. Marcus wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. What had he been thinking? These weren't his people anymore. This wasn't his life. All tests passed, the young man said, his voice barely above a whisper. Every single one. The algorithm works perfectly. The woman in the navy blazer stared at Marcus like he'd performed a magic trick. Who are you? I'm nobody, Marcus said quickly. Just the delivery guy. I should go. But Robert Chen moved between him and the door. What's your name? Marcus. Marcus Webb? Marcus Webb. The CEO's eyes narrowed. Wait, Webb. There was a Marcus Webb who published a paper on neural network optimization 6 years ago. Groundbreaking work. Won the Turing Prize for Young Innovators. He paused. That was you. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded slowly. That was a long time ago. What are you doing delivering pizza? The question hung in the air like an accusation. Marcus thought about Sarah in the hospital, her hand in his, as the doctor explained about the experimental treatment their insurance wouldn't cover. He thought about selling their house, cashing out his retirement, taking a leave of absence from his research position at the university that became permanent when they needed to fill his spot. He thought about the choice between his life's work and his wife's life, and how it hadn't really been a choice at all. Life happened, he said simply. My wife got sick. By the time, after she passed, I had a daughter to raise and bills to pay. I do what I need to do. Robert Chen studied him for a long moment. Then he turned to his team. Everyone out. Meeting's over. Lisa, prepare the paperwork for the launch. We're back on schedule. As the others filed out, casting curious glances at Marcus, the CEO gestured to a chair. Sit, please. Marcus glanced at his phone. 12 more deliveries. But something in the older man's expression made him sit. My company is worth $1.3 billion, Robert Chen said. We employ 4,000 people. The product we're launching next week will revolutionize healthcare data management. You just saved it with a 2-minute observation that our entire tech department missed. He leaned forward. How much do you make delivering pizza? I don't need charity. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering you a job, head of algorithm development. Full benefits, including the kind of health insurance that would have covered your wife's treatment. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Flexible hours so you can be there when your daughter gets home from school. And a starting salary that means you'll never have to choose between her field trip and paying rent. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept carefully locked away for 3 years. Why? Because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted, Robert Chen said. Because you saved my company. Because sometimes the universe puts the right person in the right place at the right time, and only a fool ignores that. He extended his hand. And because any man who learns advanced computer science gives it all up for his family, and still can't help himself from fixing broken code when he sees it. That's someone I want on my team. Marcus looked at the offered hand. He thought about his daughter, about the dance recitals he'd missed and the field trips he couldn't afford. He thought about Sarah and how she'd always believed he was destined for greatness, even when he was just trying to survive another day. He thought about the PhD gathering dust in a drawer and the part of himself he'd thought was gone forever. I still have deliveries tonight, he said. Robert Chen smiled. Finish your shift. Come see me Monday morning. We'll be here. Marcus shook his hand, then walked toward the door in a daze. As he reached it, the CEO called out one more time. Marcus, your daughter. What's her name? Emily. Bring Emily to the office on Monday. I want to meet the girl who has a father willing to give up everything for her. That's the kind of character this company needs. Marcus drove through the rest of his deliveries that night with tears streaming down his face. Emily's goodnight text still glowing on his phone. When he got home at 2 in the morning, he went to that drawer and pulled out his PhD. Then he pulled out the field trip form and signed his name with a pen that no longer felt like it was writing in invisible ink. Monday morning, holding Emily's hand as they walked through those glass doors, Marcus wasn't invisible anymore. The security guard greeted him by name. Jennifer, the receptionist, smiled and offered Emily a candy from her desk. And when they stepped into Robert Chen's office, the CEO stood up and shook Emily's hand like she was the most important person in the building, because sometimes being seen isn't about forcing the world to notice you. Sometimes it's about being exactly who you are, right where you are, and trusting that your moment will come. Marcus had never stopped being brilliant. He'd just been brilliant in ways the world couldn't see. Until the night he delivered pizza to the 47th floor and changed not just his life, but reminded everyone in that room what really matters. The algorithm saved a billion-dollar company. But one man's kindness, one father's sacrifice, one moment of being unable to ignore a problem that needed solving, that saved a family. And in the end, that was worth so much more.